I need to, I got to. These dreams, I won't let them go. These faces don't faze me. I'ma get it on my own. Cause I ain't never asked for no help. I just did it by myself. Can't nobody tell me no, no, no. And they ain't gotta love you. Long as you just love you, you gon' be alright on your own. Straight up the dome.
What it do, what it was. This is Off the Dome, little cuz.
What?
I've been thinking about that one all day, just to spice it up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Off the Dome Sports Podcast, your favorite sports podcast where two sports lovers sit and give their hot takes. Off the Dome. I am Redfish.
And I am Mustang.
And we will be steering this ship today. Shout out to Ezzy for that intro song. It is called Off the Dome. Listen to him on Spotify, EZZI. That is Ezzy on Spotify. If you're listening into us right now, that probably means you're on newrockradio.us, and we want to thank you not only for listening to us on New Rock Radio, but 24/7. New Rock Radio streaming the best and your favorite rock music, local, national, classic rock, new rock, doesn't matter. It's on newrockradio.us. Also tune into newcountryradio.us. I'm a big country music guy. I'm going to see a country music concert tomorrow night. So make sure to tune into newcountryradio.us.
Are you now?
I am. Cody Johnson. That's my boy. Best in the game right now, in my opinion. Also, make sure to check us out on Facebook. We have our own accounts, Off the Dome Sports Podcast, on Facebook and YouTube. That's how you can keep up with when we're having episodes, what time, and other news like that, as well as on Twitter at @off_the_dome pod. If you're just listening in on New Rock Radio, though, why don't you go ahead and give us a watch on Radio House Studios, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, all three of those platforms. You can watch us live, saying hi to the camera. Before we head to the sports, we want to thank some of our sponsors. First up, we got Petra Restaurant and Lounge, as you can see right there. Petra, one of the best dining experiences in the area. Not only a great restaurant with a great sit-down spot, but also a great lounge to just sit back and chillax. Occasional live music in there, one of the best wine selections in the area, as well as a great catering menu. So if you can't make it in, go ahead and give them a call and get them to cater your event. You can find that number 985-359-8888, or go ahead and check them out at 1036 West Airline Highway. We also want to thank Fatty's Restaurant in Garyville. If y'all have listened to us before, we've talked about Fatty's many a time. We love Fatty's in Garyville. On Museum Street, got a great atmosphere, some great food, and the occasional live music. Byron's known to play there once or twice.
Yeah. Great times there, always.
Yeah, go ahead and check out Fatty's. Some of the best fish in the area, in my opinion. I absolutely love their fish and shrimp. Go ahead and find Fatty's in Garyville on Museum Street, or go ahead and check them out on Facebook to keep up with their daily specials. We also want to thank Big Chiefs AC and Heating in Gramercy. Give them a call for all your AC and heating needs, 985-359-0419. Once again, thank you to Big Chiefs for being a friend of not only the Off the Dome Sports Podcast, but a friend of New Rock Radio. Getting into some sports. The most important thing going on right now in sport ball is, of course, the NFL playoffs. Big weekend this past weekend. Wild card weekend, first round of the playoffs.
Super wild card weekend.
Super wild card weekend. And it did not disappoint.
Not at all.
It was indeed very super.
Yeah, I felt like every game was close except one.
Except for the first game. We're going to go game by game, and the first one was the only one that wasn't really close. But it was close until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the first half was pretty close, but 49ers started to run away with it.
Yep, of course, we're talking
half.
about the 49ers versus the Seahawks. That was the 2 versus 7 seed on the NFC side of the bracket. 49ers pulled out the win at 41-23, so 18-point deficit. But at halftime, Seahawks were up 17-16. It was really the second half where Brock Purdy and that 49ers offense came alive, and that 49ers defense only allowed 6 points.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a dominant performance on both sides of the ball down in San Francisco. And I'm looking forward to that for them to continue that streak.
Yeah, 49ers are looking very, very good right now. I had my doubts going into the playoffs about Brock Purdy, and in the first half, my doubts remained because he went like 9 for 19, 100 yards, like just didn't look good in the first half. And then somehow in the second half, he went back to looking how he looked in the regular season, ended up 18 for 30 for 332 and 3 touchdowns, as well as rushing for 1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Brock Purdy is... He's him.
He's Mr. Relevant.
Yeah,
right now.
absolutely. Mr. Irrelevant turned into Mr. Relevant. Who would have thought a last pick of the draft would have turn around a season like this, especially for a team who's 13-4 and one of the hottest teams in football.
Especially with a team who had 2 quarterbacks above him starting the season.
Yeah, I mean, he was not expected to take a single snap this year. Trey Lance, he's expected to be the starter, gets hurt in, I think it was week 1 or week 2. And then you have Jimmy Garoppolo, who, he wasn't even supposed to be on the 49ers due to his whole contract situation, but yet that's where he ends up. And he ends up playing, a good bit of the season, gets hurt. Brock Purdy comes in for the last, I think, 7 games, and they go undefeated over that stretch and make it to the 2nd seed in the playoffs. But we can't forget about the Seahawks. They had a really good first half, of course. DK Metcalf had a great day.
Oh, yeah.
10 receptions, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was dominating the 49ers defense in the first half against Charvarius Ward, who has taken a big step up this past season from where he used to be when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. But wasn't enough to get it done. They end up dropping by 18. Final thoughts on the Seahawks season?
Well, definitely if you're a Seattle fan, you have to look at this season as a win. I mean, coming into the season, everybody was looking down on Geno Smith, saying that this offense wasn't going to be productive. And it turns out it was the most productive thing on the team. Their defense was still, I'd say they were on par, if not a little bit above par. Tariq Woolen, rookie, also stepped up majorly for this team. But if I'm a Seattle fan, I'm holding my head up high after this season, and I'm looking forward to the future of this team.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can't hate on anything that happened in Seattle this year. Before the year, they were looked at as one of those teams who's like gonna go for a top 5 pick. They're like, Geno Smith, he's not supposed to be that good. He's a journeyman quarterback who's never really started steadily anywhere. They had Drew Lock as the backup. They had that quarterback competition. Their defense was missing a lot. They weren't supposed to be very good, but they come out. They started off the season very hot. Stayed good enough to make the playoffs. And like you said, if you're a Seattle fan, you have to count this as a win of a season. They looked way better than they were supposed to. Got one of the best players in the draft in Tariq Woolen. He's going to end up probably top 5 in defensive rookie of the year voting, probably top 3. He had a phenomenal season for a 5th-round pick. Geno Smith had one of the best Seattle quarterback seasons, including every season with Russell Wilson. He threw, I think it was something like 4,100 yards, 30-something touchdowns. Didn't throw many picks. Geno looked very, very good this year. So if you're a Seattle fan, I know Geno's getting older, but with guys like Rashad Penny, who's going to be coming back from the IR, Kenneth Walker, that's going to be a nasty 1A, 1B combo at the running back position. Yeah. You still have DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett, although he's getting older, has shown he still has a lot of talent, still very good this season. And you've got some playmakers on the defense with Tariq Woolen. You've got maybe Jamal Adams will come back. It feels like we haven't seen him in years, but he may come back and be healthy and turn his career around. You still have got Jordan Brooks on that side, who was kind of an overlooked first-round pick a couple of years ago, and then he comes out and balls out this year. So if you're a Seattle fan, definitely count this as a win. We're going to keep talking about the 49ers when we move on to what we're looking forward to this weekend. The next game up was the most heartbreaking game for me and one of the most heartbreaking games for a lot of fans in the NFL.
Except me and Lot.
Yeah, shut up. So the Chargers versus the Jags. Jags ended up taking it home 31-30. Chargers were up 27-0.
Yeah.
Chargers are up 27-0. Trevor Lawrence throws 4 picks in the first half.
It was bad picks too. Like,
yeah,
I think they were all on him. Like,
maybe one of them wasn't. I saw one and I was like, Like I think it got tipped by a receiver or something like that. But like none of the, you can't say any of them were a miraculous interception. Like all 4 of them were bad throws. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just think Trevor Lawrence is inevitable.
He's like Thanos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence is Thanos. Sure. But yeah, Jags win it 31-0. Chargers just fell apart, man. And they were my Super Bowl pick. They had the look of a team like last year's Bengals where...
Similar to the Blue Jays.
Shut up, dude. Come on. The same thing happened to me in baseball that happened this weekend in football, where I got every game right except for one,
Except
and the one game I picked was the team I picked to win it all. It happened to me in the first round of the baseball playoffs. I went 3 for 4, and then this one I went 5 for 6. I can't,
That's tough.
it is tough because it makes me sound smart when you look at that, and then you're like, oh yeah, that one team he missed out on, he picked them to win it all. He's dumb. But, it happens. Chargers up 27-0. Blow the lead. Jags end up winning 31-30. I mean, Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
Can't say enough.
What a performance by that whole team. I mean, to the defense especially, to gather themselves after, kind of being in a bad spot the entire first half. The Chargers offense was always on their side of the field because of all these turnovers. And just to come out of the locker room after halftime and perform the way they did and keep the Chargers out of that end zone for the remainder of the game is incredible.
Yeah. You can't say enough good things about what's going on in Jacksonville right now. They have got so much to look forward to. With Trevor Lawrence being one of the youngest quarterbacks in the league, Travis Etienne being one of the youngest running backs in the league. You've got a mid to young wide receiver core with Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. You've got a guy who with untapped potential at the tight end position in Evan Ingram. And then that defense has really stepped up. I mean, allowing only 3 points in the second half. You can't in the playoffs. You can't overlook that. Speaking to the Chargers though, since we probably won't talk about them for the rest of this offseason since they're at, unfortunately. Again, like I was saying, they had kind of the feeling as last year's Bengals. What are we laughing at?
Soundman says, "Are you drinking Bud Light, Bryce? Blue can by the old left foot. He's hitting the sauce."
This is a Beppis. I do not drink. I do enjoy a good Pepsi though. So, shout out to Soundman. But yeah, this Chargers team really disappointed me. Like I was saying, they had the feel of last year's Bengals team where they're a super young team with untapped potential. You don't know what they're going to do, but they just seem to win games. That's how I felt about this Chargers team. You had Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen on the offensive side. On defense, you had guys like, Joey Bosa. Asante Samuel Jr. had 3 picks. Of Trevor Lawrence's 4 picks, Asante Samuel Jr. had 3 of them. You have Derwin James on that side of the ball, Kenneth Murray, Khalil Mack, Kyle Van Noy with that leadership and a veteran presence. I mean, they had so much to look forward to, and then they fall apart like this. And for me, I think it's Brandon Staley's fault. As a semi-Chargers fan, I keep up with the team. Brandon Staley makes me very angry.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like he's a coach that can get you to the playoffs. But after that,
his decision making is so questionable. Like his time decision making, his play calling, like that was kind of his thing last season too, though, if you remember in that Raiders game where he decided to go for it on like 4th and 5 at his own 23 with the playoffs on the line. Like he just makes weird decisions, and I don't know. Like I think it was kind of that McVay disease where everybody was like, "Oh, he coached under Sean McVay. He's going to be a great coach." It happened with Kyle Shanahan. It happened with Kevin O'Connell, and now I think it happened with Brandon Staley as well, and just didn't work out. I expect them to keep him. They've already said they're going to keep him. But dang, if they got Sean Payton,
that'd be a dangerous team.
Yeah. I would. I mean,
we've seen Sean Payton with a Chargers quarterback before.
Yeah, true. And that's the first season together. He won Coach of the Year, and the quarterback became Drew Brees. They ended up going to the NFC Championship, winning the Super Bowl 3 years later. I still have high hopes for this Chargers team in the future if Brandon Staley can get his act together, and if they can stay healthy. I think that's a big thing for them. Is they missed Keenan Allen a lot, and whenever they weren't missing Keenan Allen, they were missing Mike Williams. But Austin Eckler, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated running backs in the league. I think he has something like 40 touchdowns over the past 2 years. Like that dude he lives in the end zone.
Yeah, he's gonna have a long and successful career if he keeps playing like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on from them, let's go to a game that was a lot closer than people expected. I think it had the largest spread of any wild card game ever, and that was the Bills versus Dolphins game.
It was Probably my favorite game of the wild card weekend. Just it was one of those games where you're on your edge of the seat the whole game, all the way up until the end. The Dolphins really had a shot at this thing all the way until the end. Skylar Thompson played
Better than expected.
Yeah, much better than expected. It wasn't amazing, but it was a lot better than what we had previously seen this regular season.
And, kind of like Brock Purdy, Brock Purdy was 7th, but Skylar Thompson was a 6th-round rookie quarterback who should have never seen the field. You have Tua and Teddy Bridgewater ahead of you. You should never be seeing the field in the wild card round of the playoffs. I think for the situation he was put in, he could not have done any better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was just you're going up against a favorite to win the Super Bowl in your first round, your first playoff as a rookie quarterback. You can't really ask for much more out of him. But all in all, just like the Seahawks, I see this as a win for the Dolphins season.
Yeah. Bills end up winning 34-31, which, of course, a lot closer than people expected. It was the first time that there had ever been a double-digit spread in a playoff wildcard game, and it didn't end up being a double-digit win. So the Dolphins, you got to tip your hat off to them for fighting very hard. In the first quarter, it looked like it was going to be an absolute blowout. I think Bills were up 17-0 at one point. There was no stopping that Bills offense. And then Josh Allen did what Josh Allen does, and he turned the ball over. That's become a big problem for this Bills offense. Is Josh Allen is, even when they're winning, he's trying to make every single play.
Yeah, he's trying to do more than he needs to,
which is crazy because Josh Allen playing at his best is the best quarterback in football. So if he's not giving the ball away, who's going to stop him?
Yeah.
But like you said, for the Dolphins this season, I wouldn't say you have to count it as a win type thing, but it's definitely not a bad season by any means.
I mean,
this is about where you expected them to be before the season.
Yeah.
In the first round of the playoffs, maybe sneak one in, but probably drop it. But this is where the Dolphins expected to be, and that's where they end up, and that's dealing with more than you thought you would have to deal with.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the Tua injury, first and foremost, just kills a lot of momentum that they had. I think if Tua starts this game, could be seen a different result.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Tua stays healthy for the season, I don't even think they play each other until maybe the AFC Championship.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was thinking the same thing. If Tua stays healthy and the Dolphins don't have to put up with their quarterback injury situation, they're not the 7th seed.
No.
They probably come in at the 5th seed, in my opinion. I don't think they beat out the Bills, even though they did beat the Bills in Week 3. That was the first Bills loss of the season. Dolphins started off 3-0. Were looking very, very good before Tua went down with his first concussion. Unfortunately, he had a second one too, which is why he was out in this wild card game. But, yeah, I mean, for the Dolphins, if you would have stayed healthy all season, for me, they went 9-8. For me, they probably go 11-6.
I could see him getting a 12-win season.
It's 11-6, even 12-5, sneaking into that probably 5th spot, where instead of taking on the Bills, they would have took on the Jags. And, I don't know if the Dolphins fall apart like the Chargers do, so maybe we're looking at a completely different bracket here if Tua doesn't get hurt. But all in all, it's football. What happens, happens. The Bills end up taking home the W, but you got to look forward for the Dolphins and say, man, if things go right for us, we could be very good. My doppelganger in the NFL, Mike McDaniel, great coach. Even though people think he was vaping on the sideline.
Yeah.
People saw it.
It happened.
I think it was a Sharpie. Because he was... I don't think he was vaping on the sideline. I mean,
We'll
he would be the kind of...
We'll have to check the VAR, but however, I did not see any smoke.
I didn't see any smoke. Although it was cold, so if there was smoke, he could have passed it off for, oh, no, bro, that's just my breath.
Yeah, it's cold outside.
We'll have to
breathing
see.
hot air turns.
We'll have to see. But, shout out to the Dolphins. I think, although you can't say, oh, this is a win of a season, we had a great year, even though you made the playoffs, you got where you expected to be. It's not like you fell behind expectations.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a big improvement from the previous season.
Yeah, the previous season, they ended up like one game out of the playoffs because they ended up winning like 7 straight to end the year.
Their defense really stepped up last year.
But you didn't expect them to do what they did this year.
Correct.
Based off of that. So, shout out to the Dolphins. I think we'll see them probably in the playoffs next year too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Probably
which,
as like a 5th seed.
yeah, I mean, I think they can be much better. A
Man,
game
the
that
AFC's stacked.
the AFC is very good, very good. The NFC not so much.
We've fallen apart.
Especially like this next game. If Rebo's watching, do you know if Rebo's watching?
Oh, he is. Him and Soundman are going back and forth about another game.
Is it the one I'm about to talk about?
I believe so.
Okay, so the boys in blue and white versus the boys in purple and gold.
Yes.
Purple and gold, oh, LSU? No. It was Reese's, specifically Reese's Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, he said, not looking forward to the Vikings segment.
Oh, well, we're here, so cover your ears.
Soundman said, me either. Vikings were very expensive this year.
Yeah, the Vikings? Reese had us hyped up before the year. Like, are you serious, the Vikings? And then they end up getting the 3rd seed, go 13-4.
Yeah, had an electric regular season.
Yeah, crazy, though, that they had a negative point differential in the season, ended up at 13-4. Shows just how bad that defense was, which they did fire their defensive coordinator today. So, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting fact for a 3rd seed to immediately fire their coordinator after the season. However, doesn't matter if you're a 3rd seed, doesn't matter how many regular season wins you get. Everyone gets a clean slate in the playoffs, and they could not make that happen. The 9-7-1 Giants
And one.
go to Minnesota with first-year head coach Brian Daboll and beat the Vikings 31-24.
I didn't catch much of this game. I was kind of relying on updates. And from what I read, it was not at all what I expected this game to be.
This game had 2 stars in it, in my opinion. On the Minnesota side, they had T.J. Hawkinson, who had a great game.
Yeah, I saw his stats.
T.J. Hawkinson had a fantastic day. If he would have played like this all season, we would have won the fantasy championship. This man had 10 receptions for 129 yards.
I just wish he would have had a touchdown.
If he would have had a touchdown, we would have each won some money.
Like $80.
I think it's like 66 for me because you bet a little bit more than I did. So T.J. Hawkinson had a great day for Minnesota, but it wasn't enough because Daniel Jones had the greatest game of his career. Daniel Jones threw 24 for 35 for 301 yards and 2 passing touchdowns while also rushing for 17 carries, 78 yards, and a rushing touchdown. So Daniel Jones has 3 total touchdowns, over 300 passing yards, over 75 rushing yards on the day. Best game of his career easily. And the best part about it throughout the entire thing, stayed composed. Did not turn the ball over, never looked scared, played like he had been there before, even though obviously Daniel Jones had never been there before.
Yeah.
The Giants are kind of like they are one of the biggest sleeper teams from before, like kind of like the Seahawks, where before the season you're like, oh no, they're going to be terrible. Like no one cares about them. And then out comes first-year head coach Brian Daboll. Saquon Barkley is back and healthy. Daniel Jones has the best year of his career, which, that's not saying a lot for Daniel Jones. But their defense plays better than expected. Kayvon Thibodeau makes some moves. Andrew Thomas went from looking like a bust to one of the best tackles in football. So the Giants end up beating the Vikings here. Byron, what happened?
I mean, yeah, it's a tough game. I think the Vikings defense, like I had said before, was gonna let them down a little bit, which it did, according to Daniel Jones's stat line.
Obviously, yeah.
Which I really didn't expect. I mean, if I thought the Giants were gonna win, I would say it would have been through Saquon Barkley.
Which he had a great day.
He did.
He had two touchdowns on the ground.
Wow.
So I mean, the Giants just played really well.
Yeah.
Like you look at their team and you're like, they just played good. Darius Slayton had I think 80 reception yards. Isaiah Hodgins got in the end zone. It was actually crazy because getting towards the end of the game there, Darius Slayton's wide open. If he catches the ball, they get a first down and they can basically ice it from there. And it was an easy pass, and he just drops it. So he gets all mad, goes to the sideline. Brian Daboll comes up to him, picks up his chin, and said, dude, what are you doing? You've been our best player all day. Don't look down now. We're fine. And then the Giants' defense goes out there and takes care of the offense. I think it was 4th and 8. And the Vikings needed a first down to stay in the game, and Kirk Cousins throws it a 3-yard drag to T.J. Hawkinson, who was covered. So, primetime Kirk came to play, of course, as he always does. We do not like that. I am sorry, Reese, that your Vikings lost. If you have any, final thoughts on the Viking season, your Viking season, please leave them in the comments. I would love to address your thoughts on this Viking season. We know you're very upset about it, and we know Soundman lost a lot of money because of you.
Yeah, he
so.
said, talking about how the Vikings were expensive this year, Reese stated, you probably could have afforded some of Kirk Cousins' chains if you saved that money.
I will. I mean, Kirk Cousins, can't play football when it matters, but dang, can he wear some chains?
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins is one of those quarterbacks where if you ever talk bad about him, the very next game he'll come out and throw 500 passing yards and 6 touchdowns.
Literally, yeah.
But when it comes down to prime time or playoffs, he's nowhere to be found.
No, he chokes it out. But
Me too.
oh, okay.
Oh, Reese has an update. He said, no comment. Giants played mistakeless. Great game by them.
That's a fact. That's a great way to put it. I think that the Giants just played their best game. I think the Giants came out there to play, and they played of course not perfect, because if you're perfect, you're going to have absolutely zero mistakes. But they played one of the best games they've played all year, and what a time to play it.
Yeah.
First playoff win in 11 years for the Giants.
Wow.
So,
It's been a while.
yeah, Brian Daboll is doing a great job in New York. This season's, I feel like this NFL season's a lot about things you didn't expect.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Giants one of those stories.
For me, it's a lot of teams got better when we didn't expect them to, and even more teams somehow got worse.
Yeah. One team, though, that I expected to be good, they ended up good, and they win in the first round is the Bengals.
Yeah.
Bengals ended up taking down the Ravens 24-17 in a game that, was kind of ugly. It wasn't a super fun game to watch, in my opinion. I watched literally every single snap, and I was just like, this is not what I expected it to be. Tyler
Next round should be a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler Huntley ended up having more passing yards than Joe Burrow.
Wow.
Yeah, 226 to 208. J.K. Dobbins had the most rushing yards in the game with only 62. You would think, Joe Mixon might get a couple more. J.K. Dobbins could have had more than 62 yards and still led. But the turning point was one of the most interesting plays I've seen.
Oh,
with
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Tyler Huntley was at the 2-yard line, goes to jump over the pile for a quarterback sneak touchdown. That would have, brought them within 1 point, waiting for an extra point from the best kicker of all time. And then the ball gets punched out. Defensive end Sam Hubbard picks it up and runs it 98 yards for a touchdown. That man is 6'5", 265.
A unit.
And ran 98 yards for a touchdown for a 14-point swing that basically won the Bengals the game.
Yeah, he was definitely sucking up some oxygen on that sideline after the play.
Yeah, it was a funny picture of him giving the double thumbs up while having an oxygen mask on right after. Which, shoot, I would have needed an oxygen mask halfway through the play. So shout out to Sam Hubbard. And he just got back from injury, too. So, the Bengals are hot, man. It was a close game, like closer than it should have been, closer than the spread said. But those are the kinds of games you have to win. I mean, it's wild card of the playoffs. It's a divisional matchup. It's going to be tougher than you think. We saw it in the Dolphins versus Bills game. They've seen each other twice this year. Bengals and Ravens saw each other twice this year. In fact, they saw each other last week. 2 weeks in a row they played each other, and Bengals got the best of them both times. Bengals are a team to look forward to.
Yeah, I feel like they're not maybe. I feel like they're definitely better than they were last year, but it feels like they were talked about a lot less.
Yeah, and I think it's because they weren't a Cinderella story this year. People expected them to be good, and they were. So they weren't the big, hot, like, ooh, look at this team, look at this team, look at this team. Because people expect them to be where they are. When you're expected to do what you're doing, people kind of forget about you. But from the Ravens, they missed Lamar for a long period. If they have Lamar, I think things might turn out differently for their season. J.K. Dobbins hates Tyler Huntley, apparently. He went off on him in the press conference, saying, he shouldn't have been in that position because they should be giving me the ball. He made a mistake, just basically calling out his quarterback, which is something you hate to see. But in the end, Ravens are going into the offseason, and their number one priority is getting Lamar back in a Ravens uniform.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of have to after the type of season he had before the injury. He was just lighting it up.
First
In-
3 weeks of the season, he was MVP.
on the ground, through the air. Tell you one thing. If they don't re-sign him, the city of Baltimore will riot.
As they should. I know they said this morning they're working on a long-term extension, so hopefully they get that done. If they don't, they're going to have to franchise tag him. Like, you do not have a choice. There's no way you can let him walk for free.
I hope he comes to New Orleans.
Yeah, I would love that. But yeah, they're going to have to get Lamar's going to be back in a Ravens uniform next year. In my opinion, I think it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
Whether it's long-term extension or franchise tag, he's going to be back in a Ravens uniform. But I kind of feel bad for him because this franchise it seems to be just kind of like treading water right now. I feel like this is the Ravens every year where they have so much promise and then they lose in the first round of the playoffs because of something. So hopefully they can figure it out this offseason. I know their OC just stepped down, Greg Roman, basically because he wasn't getting the job done. He recognized that. I'm sure it was kind of a mutual parting of ways. So we'll see what happens in Baltimore.
Soundman would like to give a shout out.
Give us a shout out, Soundman.
He said, I want to give a shout out to Dallas's kicker for helping me break even for the weekend, missing all of those extra points to hit the under.
Shout out to Brett Maher in the next game that, the final game of Wild Card Weekend that ended up being, not as close as I thought it would be.
No, not at all.
Final score 31-14. Cowboys taking home the W. They were up 18-0 at half. I think they were up 24-0 at one point. And then, they just kind of were like, whatever happens, happens. Defense doesn't really care about the end of the game because they're up by 24 points.
Yeah, it was an expensive game for me.
Oh no.
I hadn't bet, besides my 3-leg lock, I hadn't really bet on any of the games over the weekend, and all of them, for the most part, turned out how I expected them to. So I was like, you know what? I'm on a streak. Let me throw some money on this game. Not the case.
Oof. What'd you put money on?
Well, we had the parlay with our group of friends.
Yeah. You're right.
In our group message. That didn't hit.
No, it did not.
We were short a Zeke touchdown and Pollard touchdown, I believe.
One of those may have been mine.
And the other was mine.
Attaboy.
And then on a separate parlay, I had Zeke, Mike Evans, Fournette, all score touchdown, and it was Brady 225, Dak 200, and the running backs couldn't score.
It happens. We're gonna talk about the Cowboys in a minute when we talk about the next round, but I want to talk about the Buccaneers. I think they had a lot happen for them in this game. Some results from this game. Playoff Lenny turned into I forgot how to play football Lenny. Dude had 19 rushing yards in the game, averaged 2.1 yards per carry. Bad game from playoff Lenny. Tom Brady threw the ball 66 times in this game. 66 pass attempts.
Wow. I didn't think he'd be able to hold up for that many.
When you look at his yards and touchdowns, he had 351 and 2, and you're like, okay, cool. But then you look, and he had 35 pass completions, barely over 10 yards per completion, which is not always a great stat. My two biggest questions from this game is they fired Byron Leftwich. Was it Leftwich's fault? In my opinion, no. I don't think he deserved to be fired. He was the OC when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He was the OC when they went, I think, 11-5. I don't think it was his fault what happened in this game. I don't think this season was his fault. I think it comes down to TB12, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he fell off. It happens. He's 45 years old. You can't expect him to play like he's 30 anymore. On my birthday, he's turning Ginny age. So is he going to keep playing football? That's my question. Do you think Tom Brady plays football next season? And if so, where's he going?
It's a tough question. Him, like many other quarterbacks and players, want to go out on a high note. And I think he waited too long to do that. I think he should have retired the year they won the Super Bowl when he came to Tampa, and if not then, even the year after where
He
they still
could've-
had success.
Yeah, last year. I mean, he led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns last season. He threw for like 5,100 and like 40 touchdowns last season. If that's not going out on top, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I think that's what he wanted to do, and I think he could have gotten one more season out of it, seeing how he had a lot of success the season prior, even with losing Chris Godwin for the most of the season last season. But I just think he got to that point, especially with all the things going on around in his life. I mean, I can see him staying around for another season. I don't think he should, for his own sake.
Yeah.
And for the sake of the city of Tampa Bay.
I agree. I don't think he should, but I think he will. And I don't think it's going to be in Tampa.
I don't either.
I think, Tampa, when he first came and they signed all those dudes, they signed Lenny, they signed Le'Veon Bell, they signed LaShawn McCoy, they signed Giovanni Bernard, they signed
18 running backs.
Yeah, I mean, they just signed a bunch of guys who wanted to play with Tom Brady and chase rings, and they get that ring. But so far, I mean, the past 2 years, you've seen what's been happening in Tampa. I think they're kind of turning into I think Bruce Arians was kind of the key to all of it, because Bruce Arians retired this offseason. He takes on a personnel role in the front office. Todd Bowles becomes the head coach, and then they do this. I just think it was an experiment that didn't work this past season. So if Tom Brady does stick around and still play football, I think he'll end up in Vegas, and that's my personal opinion. I don't know for sure.
A lot of weapons out there.
Yeah, and there's even rumors he could go to the 49ers, which is mind-blowing that the 49ers could have another quarterback. That would be the deepest QB room in the league, without a doubt. But in my opinion, I think Tom Brady should retire. He's showing his age. It's time to, you're the GOAT. Just take it and leave. But he'll probably end up in Vegas next season.
Yes, Lot. You are late, and we did already talk about your Jags.
We did. And we're about to talk about them again, though. So go ahead and drop your comments in for this game, because we're gonna moving on to the divisional round of the playoffs. This is our NFL episode. I mean, it's the NFL playoffs. We've got to talk about the NFL. Jags versus Chiefs is going to be the first game we see on Saturday at 3:30. It's going to be the first Chiefs game of this playoff, as they were the number 1 seed. What are you looking for in this Chiefs-Jags matchup?
I'm honestly, I'm kind of looking toward a similar game as the last Jaguars game. However, I think the Chiefs can come out of halftime and put points on the board. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I do think it's a Chiefs win here. I don't think the Jaguars have hit that level yet to be able to compete with one of these teams in the playoffs when it counts. But, I mean, by all means, I'd love to see him win.
Yeah, the current spread's at 8.5, over/under at 52.5. We haven't seen the Chiefs play this postseason yet. However, I feel like in the last few weeks of the regular season, they were barely skipping by.
Yeah, that is true.
They went into OT against the Texans. They barely beat a Denver Broncos team who was severely underperforming this season, and now they're taking on arguably the hottest team in football, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that Lott has winning it all. Which, if we know anything about Lott, he knows a lot. So, I'm expecting it to be a really good game. I'll get into it when we do our betting part. I was gonna foreshadow something there, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it go. But yeah, I think the Chiefs should win. They should win.
Yeah.
By all means, there's no reason Kansas City should lose this game. They are healthy. You look at almost every level, and they're better, except for maybe the running back position. Although they do have Clyde coming back, so they have the 3-headed monster again of Clyde, Jerick McKinnon, and Isaiah Pacheco, which seems like a weird 3-headed monster considering it's like 3 guys who aren't like star names, but they complement each other well, and they all play very sound football. Jerick McKinnon has been on a tear to end the season. He had a touchdown, I think, in 6 straight games or something. Isaiah Pacheco has been great for a late-round running back, and then Clyde's coming back healthy. So Chiefs should win this game. I think they will win this game. But, if Lott has anything to say about it, the Jags will take this one home.
Yeah, he said the Chiefs just don't have the guts.
They don't have the guts.
I mean, I think if it weren't in Arrowhead, I could see the Jags edging this one out. But because Arrowhead's a real tough place to play, I'm going to have the Chiefs winning this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Arrowhead's one of the loudest stadiums, and they're going to be rocking with Mahomes and the boys. Next game up, Saturday night, 7:15 on Fox. We're looking at Eagles versus Giants. Again, a number 1 seed, team we haven't seen in this playoffs yet. But we did see Eagles versus Giants in Week 18. Eagles beat them pretty handedly. However, Giants are hot. What are we thinking?
I think it'll be kind of a repeat of Week 18. I like the Giants when they played Minnesota. Really liked the game they had going for them, the game plan, everything worked fine. But the Eagles are quite different than the Vikings. I think they can attack you from multiple different ways on the offensive side of the ball, being how versatile Jalen Hurts is. And that defense is scary.
Oh, yeah.
Almost as scary as the Niners defense.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles defense is very good. I mean, they've had their ups and downs, but I would say, the Eagles have been one of the most consistent teams in football. They're electric on the offensive side of the ball. They get to the quarterback on the defensive side. They have some great DBs. CJ is back for them. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, former Saint. Darius Slay, in my opinion, is the best corner in the league. The Eagles are a very good team. I would, if the Giants were playing somebody else, like if the Giants were playing the Cowboys, I'd be like, heck yeah, go Giants.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I don't see it happening against this Eagles team. The spread's at 7.5. That's probably an accurate number from Vegas there, in my opinion.
I could maybe see a little more, maybe like a 10.5.
Yeah, for sure. But shout out to the Giants. They had a much better season than expected, but for me personally, I think it comes to an end here at Lincoln Financial. On Sunday,
A bank.
Field, Lincoln Financial Field. On Sunday, 2:00. What I expect to be the best game of the playoff this round, in my opinion, it's going to be the Bengals versus the Bills.
Yeah.
That it's going to be a rematch from the game where we saw Damar Hamlin go down. Imagine Buffalo. Imagine the stadium if Damar Hamlin is the one to lead them out the tunnel.
They don't lose if that happens.
Because he's out of the hospital. He said he was watching at home. It was rumored he was going to be at the game. If he's healthy enough and he's feeling up to it, and Buffalo can figure it out to where he leads the Bills out of the tunnel. Imagine how crazy that stadium will go if the first jersey you see coming out when they do introductions is number 3. And I'm not saying he's going to play. That's not my point. My point is him wearing just him wearing the jersey and being on the sideline with his boys. That would be an insane atmosphere. But football-wise, I'm a big Bengals guy this season. If you listen to our playoff predictions episode, I said it was either the Chargers or the Bengals going to win it, the AFC Championship, and whoever wins that wins the Super Bowl. I should have went Bengals looking back on it now because they're at least going to make it one round farther. But I expect this to be a really good game. Both teams had bad weeks last week compared to what they could do, what their potential is. I think potential-wise, both these teams could win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
At their best, both teams could win.
Yeah, I think either of these teams could beat the Chiefs. If they advance to the AFC Championship, which I think they will. So it's a really tough decision for me. But I'm going to have to stick with what I had earlier when playoffs first started and say I'm going to have the Bills winning this game.
Yeah, the spread's at 5.5 right now, which I think is
a little high. Yeah,
it's a little bit higher than I expected. Especially against a team, a team that these two teams seem to be intertwined this year, because of that Week 17 game. 5.5 on the spread, 49 over under. I think it's going to be a great game. But but I'm going to go ahead and roll with Joey B and the boys. It could be a little bit biased because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but I just really like this Bengals team. It felt like last year they were literally – it didn't even feel like – they literally were one play away from winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah. One less
And
Eli Apple.
One less Eli Apple blowing. One less Aaron Donald being the best defensive player of all time.
One less burnt piece of toast.
Which he got burnt in that Ravens game.
Multiple times.
He was off the screen at one point while his receiver was doing this. Love to see that.
How does he have a job?
Yeah, he shouldn't. I really like this Bengals team. I think a lot of Saints fans
Oh, yeah.
are gravitating towards the Bengals. A lot of LSU fans, of course.
It's kind of like a backup team, you know.
Yeah, we can fall back on them when the Saints suck, which we do.
I mean, their phrases are very similar.
Who dey, who dat, yeah. That kind of makes me angry sometimes, but I can get over it. I'm cheering for the Bengals, and I think they can pull it off against Buffalo. For me, it comes down to which quarterback do I trust more, because it's two of the best quarterbacks in the game, and Joe Burrow simply doesn't turn the ball over like Josh Allen does. So I'm gonna take the Bengals to win, and what I expect to be a very, very close and very good matchup. And then the final game of the divisional round, we have the Cowboys and the 49ers. They actually have the closest spread, with San Francisco expected at -4. What are we thinking in the Dallas versus San Fran game?
I think, I haven't really agreed with most of the spreads, and this one I really don't agree with.
Yeah, for me, the two Saturday games are like they're large spreads where you're like, in the playoffs, that's kind of crazy. I know for you think Philly should be favored by even more. For me, it's like I would expect it to be a little bit closer after what the Giants did last week. But for me, the two Sunday games are a lot closer than I expect. So it's kind of like a weird parallel there. I wouldn't expect San Fran to only be 4-point favorites.
Yeah, that. I didn't like what I saw out of Dallas. I mean, I know they got the win. They played a pretty good game, but it just didn't feel like, they were really playing like they wanted to be there.
Yeah, like not only that, but
it felt like a lack of passion.
I completely agree with that. And also from the standpoint of to me, it felt more like Tampa Bay lost.
Yes.
Than Dallas won. Because I feel like if Dallas plays anybody else last week, I don't know if they really. I mean, they might still win, but they don't blow them out by 17 like they did against Tampa. Tampa just looked so unbelievably bad. This is gonna be a defensive matchup, though. Two of the best defenses in the league. Two of the most talented defenses in the league when you look at strictly just names too.
Yeah.
You've got Nick Bosa versus Micah Parsons. That's gonna be a matchup to keep our eyes on which young edge rusher is gonna get the edge, I guess you could say.
Interesting choice of words.
You gotta go for it sometimes. Two offenses as well that have plenty of weapons. Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy at the quarterback positions. CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Gallup, Tony Pollard and Zeke versus Elijah Mitchell and CMC. I mean, a lot of parallels between these two teams, in my opinion. And Cowboys 49ers, one of the most storied matchups. I mean, that basically ruled the NFC Championship in the 90s. These two teams, I feel like, I don't know this, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but just guessing, they probably made 6 or 7 Super Bowls between these two on the NFC side in the 90s. So kind of an old school football matchup where it's a lot of running and a lot of defense. Who are you taking, though, to win this one?
I expect this game to be somewhat similar to the Niners game last week against the Seahawks, where it'll be close in the beginning, in the first half, and then we'll just see that the toll that Niners defense takes on an opposing offense. And they talked about it during that game. They said that offenses or teams that played the 49ers the week after they played them lost. They were 0-17.
That's a
was the
crazy
record
stat.
for teams, after they played the 49ers.
That's so weird. That's such an odd stat, but it's
Yeah, I
it
mean,
makes you think.
It just shows you how physical they are.
Yeah.
And I I think when it comes down to playoffs, you're even a bit more physical.
Yeah.
Starting to wear their opponent down even sooner than, the next game.
Right.
And I think it takes a toll on this Dallas team. And I think it'll be pretty much a mirror match of the last game, except maybe I don't see Dallas scoring as much in the first half. I think it'll be a more defensive game in the first half, and then the second half I could see the 49ers kind of growing that lead to win the game.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I think San Fran's going to take this one home. For me, like you said, it comes down to defenses. That's what it is. It's a defensive matchup, and that 49ers defense is going to take a toll on Dak Prescott, who we have seen make many a mistake this season. And Brock Purdy's playing well. This will be the best defense I think he's played yet. But for me, that 49ers defense is just, the old adage, defense wins championships, and we're going to see if that's true. But I think defense will win this game, and the 49ers are just too good, in my opinion. So, looking back on it, out of the 4 matchups, we agree on 3 of them. The only one we differ on, Bills-Bengals, which I think if there's any game people are going to differ on, that's the one.
It's that one.
It's gonna be a really good one. I think this is gonna be a really good divisional round. I loved Super Wild Card Weekend, and I don't think divisional round will let down either.
No.
But no matter what happens, it's been great playoffs, and we'll be looking forward to the AFC and NFC Championship. For Lott's sake, hopefully the Jags can take it on the Chiefs.
For Reese's sake, he doesn't have one. Both his teams are out.
Yep, and my Chargers are out, but I did pick the Eagles to make the Super Bowl, so we'll see how that goes. And the Bengals were my fallback team.
It's a sad day in Rebo Hustle world.
Shout out Rebo Hustle. Sorry, buddy. But yeah, we talked about the playoffs to a very large extent here. And, just kind of wrap up the show here. We always talk about bets. That's what we do. We like talking about them. I'm not going to say we're good.
Bets.
Shut up, man. Yeah, I thought we were having a good day until now.
We are having a good day.
No, we were.
We still are.
Okay, buddy. But yeah, I'm not saying we're good or bad at betting. I wouldn't put us into either category really, but we just enjoy talking about it and just seeing how it works.
Soundman, however, great better.
Great better.
Unless he tells you to bet on the Vikings, then don't do it ever.
Never bet on the Vikings. Reese likes them, so I'm automatically out. And then Soundman even doesn't want to bet on him. If Soundman doesn't want to bet on him, neither do I. But like Byron kind of alluded to earlier, we did a 3-leg lock last week. We did it in week 18, and we hit. And then we did it in Wild Card Weekend, and you hit. I did not, unfortunately. I missed out on the Bills spread because that game was a lot closer than it should have been. I hit my other 2, didn't hit my Bills spread because it was at 13.5. I mean, that was so obvious. Why did I think the Bills would win by 14 points?
That's a big number in the playoffs.
It happens, But we're gonna do another 3-leg lock for this weekend. We've only got 4 games going on, so not a ton to pick from here. But we'll see what we got. Since you are the hotter better right now as far as the show goes, go ahead and give us your 3-leg lock.
Okay, so the week 18 and first round of the playoffs, my bets were pretty similar. They were both, all 3 of the legs were money lines. So I'm an idiot because I'm deferring from that to try and get a little better odds.
Of course. You take what works and you don't do it.
Correct.
Smart.
Yeah. So starting off, I have the 49ers spread, which when I looked at it, it was -3.5, but believe you said it changed to -4.
Yeah, it was at 4 on ESPN, but it depends on which sports book you use. You can have it.
I'd take it either way. So
3.5 or 4.
-4, -3.5. Pick your poison. I have that. I have the Eagles spread at -7.5. Like I said, I think they could beat this Giants team, pretty confidently. I'm not going to say that it's going to be a blowout, but I don't think it's going to be, within a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean that half, they do it for a reason. It's always like, oh man,
yeah.
It sounds good that they beat them by a touchdown, but then you throw in the half and you're like, oh well, now they have to beat them by 8. But I don't mind it.
And then to top it all off, I have the Chiefs money line playing Jacksonville in, as Mr. Lottober calls it, Narrowhead.
Narrowhead.
All that together adds up to plus 327, and I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it at all. I definitely agree with the 49ers spread. I think the 49ers probably win that game by at least a touchdown.
And there's a reason that I didn't put the Bengals or the Bills on here because I don't want to touch that game.
Yeah,
Because I could see either team winning by 20.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I like your parlay. I might throw money on your parlay for fun.
Hell yeah, you will.
Okay. Don't get so confident, bud. You said you didn't want to touch the Bengals versus Bills game. That's kind of how I felt with the Eagles-Giants game. Because if the Giants play like they did against the Vikings, who's to say the Giants can't win? And we've seen the Eagles be bad, but also the Eagles can be the best team in football. So I don't know where to go there. Although I feel like the Eagles will win, the spread was kind of scary, and they had the second lowest money line on the weekend, so I didn't want to throw them in there. I was like, let me just stay away from that game. I'm going to go with some games that are a little bit more fun. Jags-Chiefs game. You took Chiefs money line, although I also think the Chiefs will win the game. I think the Jags can keep it within 8 points. The spread's at 8.5. I think the Jags can keep it within 8 if Trevor Lawrence plays well. We know the Chiefs' biggest weakness is the pass defense. So if Trevor Lawrence, can hand the ball off to Travis Etienne and, they can get the run going and they can play off a little play action to get Christian Kirk and Zay Jones open down the field, I think they keep it within 8 points. Bengals spread is my next bet at 5.5. I took them to win in my predictions. However, a spread is a much safer bet. So I'm going to go 5.5 on that one. I think the Bengals are definitely good enough to keep it within 5 points of the Bills, although 5's a weird number. I think they can figure it out. And then lastly, I went 49ers money line. You could have went I could have went spread here, but for me, I think the 49ers are going to win, so I just threw the money line in there. Because it could end up a field goal game. Who knows? But the odds on those 3 legs, Jag spread, Bengals spread, 49ers money line, that's at plus 454. So odds are a little bit higher than yours. Because yours is a little bit of a safer bet in my opinion. Yours will most likely hit. I'm taking a risk on mine for sure. But I feel like it's a pretty good parlay to get you some money.
Yeah, I like the Jag spread at first glance, and then I thought back to, their round 1 performance, 4 interceptions. I mean, if you even throw 2 interceptions.
If you throw 2 interceptions against the Chiefs, you're losing by 30. That's fair.
That's
Trevor
how I
Lawrence
feel.
does have to play his best game.
He has to play much better than he played last week.
That's fair.
And because I know the Chiefs can capitalize a lot more than what the Chargers did, and they could stay consistent throughout the whole game. So
And
that's why I didn't touch it.
yeah, and not only that, but you have to think about the coaching. I've already talked bad about Brandon Staley. They've got Andy Reid on the Chiefs sideline, so it's going to be hard to outcoach Andy Reid.
But yeah, I like how our 2 bets, our parlays are quite opposite.
Yeah.
In that I have 2 spreads and a money line.
Well, I also have 2 spreads.
Both the spreads being, the betting favorite.
Yep.
And then you have also 2 spreads and a money line, with your 2 spreads being the underdog.
Yeah.
The road dog.
There was an interesting bit about this weekend though. All 4 higher seeded teams are favorites, which I thought was, you would automatically think so, but in the first round of the playoffs, you had 2 underdogs who were the favorites, betting wise. So that was a pretty interesting little stat there. That they basically expect the 1 and 2 seed to make it to the AFC and NFC championship. But I heard through the grapevine that Soundman's got us a little bit of a parlay too. So why don't you go ahead and give us that one?
He does. He sent me a little text with a screenshot of his bet, which you'll be a fan of.
Okay.
Me personally, I'm not, but what do I know? He's Soundman. He's the professional bettor.
Professional bettor.
He also has the Bengals spread at plus 5.5, and he tacked that on with the over 49. Which between these 2 teams, if it weren't playoffs, I'd bet that all day.
Yeah.
The over 49.
I like it, man. I'm thinking, this game could end up being like a little 27-24.
I'm thinking maybe even more than that.
So 49's looking like a very low number for us here.
Yeah, and you can combine those 2 to make a beautiful parlay with the odds of plus 264. All even numbers.
Yeah, I like that bet from Soundman. You know what? I'm probably gonna throw like $10 on each of our parlays this weekend and see what happens. If they all hit, I'll be making a lot of money. If one of them hits, I'll make my money back. And if none of them hit, then I lost $30. Oh well. But last thing for the show here, one more betting thing. So right now, the betting favorite to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft is Bryce Young at -118. So people are assuming that either the Bears are going to trade Justin Fields or they're going to trade the number 1 pick to a team who wants a quarterback. First question, would you bet on Bryce Young to be the first overall pick? And second question, who would you bet to draft him?
Okay, this is tough.
A little bit to unpack here.
But
if you want
first
time
one,
to think,
the first one I
Okay.
can. I don't think. I mean, I do think that Bryce Young will be the first player drafted. I think that's almost set in stone.
okay, he is the favorite at -118. Second place, we've got C.J. Stroud at +188.
I don't think he'll go to the Bears because I don't think they'll trade Justin Fields after he improved a lot this season.
Yeah, he definitely took a step forward.
I think they like him up there in Chicago, and I think it's for a good reason.
The team stinks, but he's good.
Yes, they have other problems, but I don't think, for once, the Bears don't have a problem at quarterback. Probably since maybe like 2010 when they had Jay Cutler, who was slinging it for a short period of time. So, yeah, I think they ride with Justin Fields. I think they trade the number 1 pick away, probably for some offensive weapons, if I had to guess. Or
To
maybe
who?
for multiple picks.
Who do you think is going to take it from him?
Let's see. Who needs a quarterback?
I'll go ahead and
Raiders.
give my opinion. I think the Colts are going to trade for the number 1 overall pick.
I was leaning towards them, but I don't.
Chris Ballard has a mark to make. I mean, he has missed out on quarterback after quarterback after quarterback with Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan. Jim Irsay is an owner who is not afraid to just do what he needs to do to make the team successful.
But I don't see what they could
Just picks. I mean, you trade.
comfortably give up.
They have the 4th pick. So Chicago's only dropping from 1 to 4. It's not like they're completely falling out of the first round. At 4, because if you stay at 1, you're not drafting Bryce Young. At 4, you're going to get one of Will Anderson and Jalen Carter, who you would probably take at 1. So you're not really missing out, unless you are very strong on one of those two guys. You're not really missing out on your pick, in my opinion. So if you trade, 1 for pick number 4, a 3rd rounder, and maybe a 2nd rounder next year, that's getting a nice little haul. You're making up for the 2nd rounder that you lost this year in the Chase Claypool trade to the Steelers.
Which I think was a
you're
bad
only
move.
dropping 2 picks. You're getting a 3rd in there. You can maybe even throw in another pick on the back end of that, or they might ask for 2 ones. So for me, I think Bryce Young does go first overall, and I see him in an Indianapolis uniform.
Yeah, I mean, they desperately need a quarterback.
Very badly need a quarterback.
Another team that I could see possibly trading up with Chicago would be the Raiders. They have a little bit to offer, especially in, when you look at what they want. Josh Jacobs, for some reason, even though he had one of the best seasons, definitely his best season so far, he started off the season playing in the Hall of Fame game. They said, we kind of want to go a different route, but we're going to test out the waters this year. Do you think they're going back on their word?
They should be. I mean, he led the NFL in rushing. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so technically he's a free agent, but Las Vegas cannot let him go. So I expect Josh Jacobs to be back.
The Rams, with Stafford being injured,
Yeah, and
they
it's
have
up
a
in
lot
the
to
air.
give up too.
It's up in the air whether Stafford will, retire or not, really. I mean, he won his Super Bowl that he wanted. He's been injured. He's getting older. He could just, go out. But Sean McVay's back. So does Sean McVay want to be in a situation with a rookie quarterback, or would he rather have a vet? I think that's another question that, the Rams may be asking right now.
And I'm sure there's a few more, but I agree. I think the Colts are probably the favorite for Bryce Young. Yeah, I don't know.
And so for me, it was either the Colts or the Texans could as well. Because although they're sitting at pick 2, if you are feeling strong enough about one of these guys and you're like, I want Bryce Young over CJ Stroud, you'll move up from 2 to 1, and it's going to cost you because they know you're moving up for a quarterback. And when they know you're moving up for a quarterback, it's going to cost you a little bit more. So they have the pick 2 and they have pick 12. So do you send 2 and 12 for one? It seems like a lot to give up, but if you're getting your franchise guy, what is that in 5 years, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they've already built a pretty good mold for that team in Houston, picking up Dameon Pierce, who had a great season for his first year. Brandon Cooks is still there. You got a veteran receiver. And that team just kind of they got a little worse this year.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say.
But I could definitely see them, picking up Bryce Young, getting slowly better year by year, picking up a few more, weapons for him, because Brandon Cooks can't do it all. But the defense has really stepped up majorly.
Derek Stingley looked great in his rookie season.
So did, what's his name? The safety?
Jalen Petre.
Yes.
Out of Baylor.
He also had a pretty good season.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I would agree with you in being that I think it's between the Texans and the Colts. Probably leaning more towards the Colts.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, that'll be an interesting thing, and we'll definitely talk about the draft once, the Super Bowl's over and we kind of get into that spot where there's not much NFL to talk about because nothing's happening. Of course, we'll get into LSU baseball because that's coming up on the horizon. College basketball is going to be in full swing once we get to March Madness.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready.
Opening day for the MLB coming up in April.
I can't wait to take Rebo Hustle to Alex Box for the first time.
Oh, yeah, he's going to love it. So we've got fun stuff on the horizon, but as of right now, that's going to do it for the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. Soundboy here is going to go take care of what he got to take care of because Soundman did have to leave. So we covered the NFL playoffs. We told you who won in the wild card, who we're looking to win in the NFL divisional round for this 2023 playoffs. We've both got the Chiefs. We've both got the Eagles. We split on the Bills and Bengals, and we both got the 49ers. So it'll be a fun weekend for the NFL. And then we talked a little bit of draft, something I'm very interested in. So that's going to do it this day for Off the Dome. Make sure to check us out on social media, Off the Dome Sports Podcast on Facebook and YouTube, as well as Twitter, _Dome Pod. Don't forget, you can always watch us on Radio House Studios, all those platforms, as well as listening on newrockradio.us. Thank you to Petra, thank you to Fatty's Restaurant, and thank you to Big Chiefs AC and Heating. This has been the Off the Dome Sports Podcast with Bryce and Byron, and we will see you next time.